Good afternoon, everyone. It's 4:30 Eastern U.S. time on Tuesday, the 6th of June, 2017. Thanks for joining us on this Convergence event. Convergence events are Tuesday events that I've been holding for several years now. Whenever a subject comes up, they could be anything from a trader spotlight, which we haven't done in some time, a trader intervention, where we go over someone's statistics and performance and discuss almost like a coaching session that the public or anybody can attend, and provide some solid recommendations as if the trader is a prop trader. We've done product spotlights like this one on Investor-RT. We've done them on S5 Bookmap. We've done them on many different products. And these product spotlights are not, although they can be seen as a promotional piece, are not really intended to be. These are products that I use. And because I use them, I know a lot of people do too. And the reason we bring Chad out here. He's the senior engineer and developer at Linsoft, the maker of Investor-RT. We bring him on because he is constantly developing and improving and changing, and I can tell you that I've known Chad for probably 12 years, 13 years maybe, and he's constantly looking for ideas, constantly hitting me up for updates and changes that he's making. And I figure since I need an update on what the latest and greatest is, everybody else who's using the software should get one at the same time. So we make these public, okay? So that's the purpose of this. The
Unmuted.
Overall goal today is to see what the latest improvements are and how we can manipulate the information that's provided to us by Investor-RT. From now on, I'm just going to call it IRT, to get an edge on trading. That's really the ultimate point of this webinar. The last time Chad was on, we covered a lot of material. That video got approximately 2,000 hits, unique hits. So even though many cannot attend, many will end up watching the video. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Chad. I want to remind you that derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. There is a segment that Chad is going to cover with regards to backtesting and performance statistics, and I want to remind you that hypothetical results that are going to be shown here cannot be substantiated in real time, and there's a risk that these results cannot be duplicated in real time. So be aware of the CFTC notice that is pertaining to hypothetical results, because it does show performance, and it may not represent what the market yields in the end for many reasons: slippage, liquidity, things like that. So with that, Chad, I'm going to go ahead and pass the screen on to you. For those of you who want to see who Chad is, he's this good-looking guy here at the bottom of the screen, an avid golfer, and a guy from warm Georgia. So here you go, Chad. You're going to get a prompt to start sharing your screen.
Yeah, that picture's about 20 years old, but I keep getting older, so we're just going to stick with that one.
You still look the same, just a deeper tan now that you got more time to play golf.
All right. Am I on now? Can you see my screen,
Yes.
Morad? Okay.
I see you. Yes, I see you. Very cool.
How do I hide that thing? Okay. So thanks, Morad. I appreciate that. Like Morad said, I'm a developer with, and so I've been a developer with Lens Software for about 21 years now, working exclusively on Investor-RT. So just continual improvements, new indicators based on ideas from guys like Morad and users like you. So today I've got a lot to show you. I'm going to try to focus on the new stuff that we've added since last time I did a webinar with Morad, which might have been almost a year ago. but I've got a lot of new indicators, RTX indicators I want to show you. And I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. I want to try to avoid digging too deeply in the preferences and the syntax and like I usually do. So what I want to start with is showing you how to find more information. I'm going to show you a lot of RTX indicators today. If you go to our website, lensoft.com/RTX, and you look in the left margin, you'll find links to all these indicators. For instance, today I'm going to start with the boundaries indicator. Just click on the boundaries link, and it'll take you to the boundaries page, and you can watch a video there. You can click on this videos tab, and you can watch a video that'll tell you a lot more about it. Some of these indicators, you really need to watch that video, and you can read a description of the preferences on these pages. And I'd also point you to our video library. You know, today, for instance, I'm going to be using a lot of buttons with chart variables today. So everyone, if you're using InvestorRT, I really recommend you learn how to do this. Not very hard, but so if you just go to our video library and search chart variables, it's going to filter what's here, and I recommend you watch both of these videos when you get a chance. So make a note of that. As I go through these RTX indicators and you see one that piques your interest, just jot it down. Keep Notepad or Word open, or jot it down, the name of that RTX indicator. Go back and do a little more research on it. Watch the video later.
Hey, Chad, just real quick, the RTX indicators are mostly included with the subscription that requires the features that I use already, right? I don't remember how the pricing works. So these are not things you buy individually or anything. These are already available to you. You have to, for each one that you want to use, IRT will ask you to install it. I also want to point out, as Chad is talking here, and you might be wondering, okay, why am I watching this particular webinar? We're going to go through a few features that really could make a difference to your trading, especially if you're following along as far as coloring bars, looking at zippers, looking at statistics. So hang in there. Some of this stuff may not be relevant to you or important to you, but there's some stuff that's also relevant to you, or you can catch the recording later. So don't jump to conclusions right away, because not every RTX indicator is going to be something that you'll be interested in, but along the way, I think you'll find something interesting.
Right, and you know, if you're confused about what RTX is, it's our extension. Essentially, we developed a development library where anyone can come develop these indicators. So if you have some C or C++ experience, you can come develop any of the indicators, any of the things you see I've done in these RTX indicators, you could do as a developer. So over the last couple of years, we've pushed it in every angle and every edge, and we've really made a very robust API for drawing calculations, presenting preferences. So anything you see, if you're a developer, you might consider developing for InvestorRT. Anything I do here, you could do as an RTX developer. So let's jump right in. I'm going to start with a couple of brand new RTX indicators. One's called boundaries and one's called colors. And these two indicators feed the profile indicators. So we're going to also talk about the profile indicator a little bit. The boundaries indicator, I think this is going to have a lot of utility in different areas going forward. What it's designed to do is allow any user to manually identify a boundary, a starting or ending boundary. So what you see along the top of this chart is the boundaries indicator. And so if I click on any of these blocks, you'll see the profile indicator is building off of those boundaries. So I can split and merge my profile indicator. I have a single instance of the profile indicator in the chart, and it's working off that boundaries indicator. So I can merge these profiles very quickly, very easily, and they all work together. You know, if you may have been doing the same thing with manual profiles, and maybe you got 1,000 of them in your chart. Now you just need one, and you can use this method to merge and split and control where the start and end of every profile is, and allow the naked extensions, that kind of stuff, to all work together. That's really important. If you go to the preferences, you'll see right here there's an LS boundaries time per profile duration now. So that allows it to build off the boundaries indicator that's in the chart. And the same applies to the price statistics indicator, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But there is also an option for duration of LS boundaries in the price statistics indicator, and you'll see when I do that, is also going to go from the last boundary forward. I can also change this boundary indicator to use two colors, and when you do that, I've got a green and red color, and now I can specify red for stop, and now this price statistics and this profile is starting here on the green, ending on the red, and there's no profile for the period after that. I can change it back to green, and now this price statistics is covering this area here. So you know, there's going to be a great deal of things. This will open up for other indicators that will probably feed other indicators. You can also add labels to the boundaries. Each one of them can have its own custom label. These boundaries are stored in a CSV file in the admin folder. So you can share these boundaries between charts. You can upload them to a server, and I'll show you the preferences. Similar to the flex levels, you can upload it to a server and share it between users. So one person could be maintaining the boundaries, put that on a server, and everyone could point at that, and everyone's chart will share those same boundaries.
So boundaries essentially are what we used to have, that drawing tool that I currently use for making microcomposites, but kind of turbocharged, right? Essentially, yeah. It's providing the same information, except now it's more dynamic and it's right on the chart that I can expand and contract these and get the price statistics that you show on the right, get those to conform if I set those to the boundary as well. So this is just another way of combining and splitting profiles and making them start and stop wherever you need, which is something I use a lot, as many of you have seen on the TraderByte. Very important aspect of measuring where balance and imbalance is. That's what it's for.
Exactly. And I'm just opening up the file in Excel here so you can see that it's just a combination of date times and a number. 1 is a start, 2 is an end. So and optionally there are some labels here, which we've applied to a couple of boundaries. So that's all it is. It's a file. Every time I click on that boundary, it opens that CSV file, updates it, and then closes it. So it's updating that file each time you click. You click anywhere on the boundary horizontal tab here. So as I click that, it's updating it. Actually, you can't have the, let me see if I can move this. Okay, here we go. You can also right-click on, this is the hotspot. This blue area here is the hotspot for the boundaries indicator. You right-click and you can reset your boundaries to split session. You can reset them to daily, so just 1 per day at the start of the session. And then from there, you can merge and split by clicking here. Okay, so that's the boundaries indicator. Now, the motivation behind both the boundaries indicator and the color indicator is to provide the profile indicator with some TPO profile functionality that's really never been available to the profile indicator. The standalone TPO charts have some functionality that, such as merging and splitting, which I just showed you the boundaries indicator can do, and it also has the TPOs, or the letters. Those two things have been missing from the profile indicator, but now they're available through these two RTX indicators. So it's kind of an effort. There are a lot of limitations with the standalone TPO profile indicators, and so, or TPO standalone profile charts. So these two indicators are kind of an effort to move the traditional market profilist over to the bar and candle charts, which have an enormous amount of functionality that's not available to TPO profiles. So let me move over to that's the boundaries indicator. Let me move on to the colors indicator. It's also a new RTX indicator, and it empowers the profile indicator with TPOs or letters. So you see here now I've got, starting with A, it allows you to provide custom letters and custom colors for the profile indicator. And I'll show you how that's done. In the profile settings, you will just choose letters. There's a letters option down at the bottom. You can actually, you have options of blocks and letters, hollow blocks, both. So a lot of flexibility down here, and you just choose LS colors. And when you do that, it's going to feed off the LS colors indicator that's in the charts. Let me bring up the preferences there. And you have the option of what sequence you want to use. I can choose this and go to numerical, and if I apply now, I've got numbers. Once it gets through all the numbers, it just repeats the beginning. And the same with colors. You can specify how many colors, and you've got a few. You can reset the colors all of the first color. You can fade it from first to last and apply that. And you can also, for instance, I can put a 12 in here and set all greater than 12 to 12 that way. So, so this just enables Profile Indicator to have the TPOs. You can also split those TPOs if you wish with a Shift 2. And so you can do split or merge TPOs. So that is the colors indicator. And again, on this chart, I can merge and split these with boundaries. Same way.
Merge those numbers together, TPOs together now, the Shift 2?
Oh, Shift 2, yeah.
Okay, so those are just multi-day profiles. I never liked the profile chart, the way it's implemented. It's old school, but now there's something much more dynamic, and you can actually add stuff to the chart now and have TPOs. That's the key element here.
Yeah, I'm with you, but there's a lot that are still using that, so I thought I would just, it's relatively easy to add this, but it's, and if TPOs, the chart has to be a 30-minute chart for it to be 30-minute TPOs. You could have, if you change it to a 5-minute chart, you've got 5-minute TPOs, so a lot more letters, yeah. So, and if you zoom in vertically, you'll notice there's not room for those letters to be presented. There's just not room vertically for it. So it just labels the bar with that letter when that's the case. So as I zoom back out, I get the TPOs, all the TPOs, and then as I zoom in, it just labels the proper bar with the TPO.
Very cool.
So let's move,
Probably move on.
Let's move on to the zones indicator. Now the zones indicator, it's another RTX indicator that was designed to identify areas of consolidation. So the way we do that, focus on these blue boxes, and right now it's looking for a range. This is 1-minute bars, but it's looking for a range less than or equal to 3 ticks, maintained for greater than or equal to 10 bars. So it takes that and then it extends. There's an option to have a naked extension on that zone until both sides are touched. So that's what we're setting up here. I've got some buttons up here. Again, these are buttons that are controlling chart variables that are used by the zones. So I could change this to 4, and I'm going to get some more zones. I can change it to 2, and I might not have any. So very few zones there. And you can increase the number of bars with this. Go ahead.
So it's really important here. This is really relevant to what I do. For those of you who look at zippers and consolidation areas, I actually added this already to my trigger chart definition, which I have not uploaded to the Dropbox yet for those members of Stage 5. But this is taking away some of the mystery of what starts a zipper and what doesn't. What this is doing is not only outlining a zipper, but now we have a visual way of seeing how a zipper is responded to sometime in the future. I think this is outstanding because describing where a zipper starts and ends is a difficult thing. I've asked Chad, this is based on bars. It looks at the number of bars, but I've actually asked Chad to add a layer to this if possible and make it so that you can select a minimum volume too, which is important because a zipper that has a, oh, you did it already, gosh.
No, it's already in there. It's in there in what you have already, so it's.
Okay, cool. So this, you know, having a zipper that's taken up a lot of bars with a lot of volume, that's where we want to get in. Those are the areas, if you're getting imbalance into a balance area, to look for imbalance before it happens. That's essentially my entry, one of my entry areas. And what this is doing is, for me personally, it's allowing me to see, without having to scroll back and forth in the chart, see areas that are still zippered above. Like in this case, today we sold off, as you see here, we sold off in the S&P. He's showing the full session here, but we've sold off, and now we left a nice zipper area above this afternoon, and I want to see how the market responds when it comes to it. So even in an environment where I'm talking, like in tomorrow's AMA, maybe where I'm talking about how the market responds to zippers, this is tremendous because it just carries it forward, and then we can visually see how zippers are treated. And I think you'll be just running back on a trigger chart. He's using a 1 minute, but you can actually switch this to a Renko-based based zipper. So there in the zones, there's a selection that is at the bottom, second from the bottom, that is zipper bars, and it can be switched to a Renko, and it gives you these nice clean zones without the bars just scrolling by. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm excited about this because this simplifies a lot of what we do as far as triggers.
Right. Yeah, and there's a lot of different options here that kind of spun off of it. We initially, that first option was what we were focused on, the consolidation area, but you know, it's just there to help automate. You know, a lot of users have used shapes indicator or rectangle indicator to manually mark these areas of consolidation, but now this automates it and also automates a naked extension of that until both sides are taken out. So if you choose zipper bars, it's looking for, typically on Ricoh, it's looking for alternating up and down bars for whatever the minimum you specify. And again, this, you know, I've specified a lot of these in C-pound variables, which I'm controlling up here. So we can go up here and change this to maybe 30,000. What he was talking about, the minimum volume, that's requiring them to be 30,000 contracts traded in that zone, or it doesn't show the zone. So you can add a minimum volume to the zone.
Right, and that's really important because you can have a zipper where nothing happened in the market, and then you're leaning against that zipper on a trade. You're short bias, you see a zipper, you're leaning against it, and the market just rips right through. And it's because that zipper, even though it shows price-wise, you're not taking into account volume. And so it's not getting respect. And when Chad here switched to 30,000 or better, which is a pretty good sum, on a small zipper like this, you can see that the high had a tremendous amount of trading, 30,000 on a 1 minute bar. That's a lot of trading. I expect a response or a reaction in that area as we push back into it over the next few sessions if we do. So this is, again, I know I'm sounding really excited about this, but this really simplifies how we can look back and see what the market has performed and where without having to draw those boxes and extend them out like we've been doing.
Right, and there's also an option to highlight the minimum bar zone, so it just highlights when those minimum bars completed, and there's also an option to have an alert when a new zone completes during live trading. So that's the zones indicator. Next I'm going to talk about, all right, pivot strategy analysis and pivot strategy optimizer indicator. Okay. This is kind of a backtesting made easy, if you will. It takes a price level. We're going to focus today on the previous day's high. We're looking at the previous day's day session high. We're just going to focus on that one, and it looks to trade that level. So and it backtests how the trading would have occurred on that level. We're going to fade the previous day's high from below with right now we're looking at a 12 tick stop and a 12 tick target. So you can set up all these very easily in the pivot strategy analysis indicator, and then it presents everything visually. It shows you right here that it went short. It hit a target, it went short, and it hit a stop. And I've limited this. You can limit to a certain number of winners a day, a certain number of losers. I've got it set up for one loss. So once we lose, we don't trade anymore. You can prevent trading during the first X minutes or last X minutes of the session. I'll just show you this briefly. And it gives you a lot of the cumulative statistics up here. We're looking at 3,027 days, you know, 1,761 trade. It shows you how many winners and losers. You have an equity curve here, pretty nice equity curve. So it shows you over the whole duration of the chart. The MAE consecutive, there were 9 consecutive winners one time. If it's more than once, it'll show in parentheses a number next to that, and there's 7 consecutive losers. You can click this Show Trade Analysis button, and it'll show you every trade, and it shows you whether it was a winner or loser and how far it went against you. So it's kind of interesting. So you can see on losers how far it went in your direction, on winners how far it went against you. These gray dots are kind of the MFE. So you can actually look and scroll back and see every single trade in sequence and kind of analyze that trade and see how many winners. You know, we had 5 winners in a row, 3 winners in a row, and on those winners, you can see how far it went against you on that trade.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
A couple things to note here before you move on. Again, I'm required to tell you the results here are hypothetical. Do not trade live money. Based on the results of the pivot strategy analysis indicator, you should do further homework. For example, you should forward test the strategy once you see that it's viable. Forward test it on a simulator and make sure that it is in fact something that represents reality. Hypothetical results have a lot of limitations, including slippage. They don't account for slippage. They don't account for fees and commissions and things like that. So just be cautious with that. Now, I know this is going to capture a lot of attention here, just to make sure that everybody understands all this is doing, the way this particular study is set up, and this is based on a signal that Chad created. It's looking at the prior day's high, and it's basically saying sell the prior day's high with a 12-tick stop and a 12-tick target, okay? And you can only reset if the market moves 8 ticks away from that level. And you can only take this trade once per day, once per session, okay? And those are the results. It's 52%.
More, you see, we would have traded here, but that was where the reset distance. Now, I've got a reset distance of 8, so it's got to get 8 ticks away, 8 ticks below this. So I didn't want to jump right in and trade right here unless we got 8 ticks below it, which this line shows you the 8-tick level. Then it hit it, that line goes away. Now we're ready. Now we're loaded
armed
to trade.
Yeah, it's armed, yeah.
We came back up here, we hit it, we got in. That blue line tells us we are in a position. Then the green is the target, the red's the stop, and here's where we got out. We hit the target, and that's the same here, except for we hit the stop. So you can scroll back and see how the trades went one by one. You can take a few different angles on this. Now, I've also, I kind of added a few different layers to this. You can, in the preferences, you can just do a predefined level, previous day's high. It's that simple. You don't have to do any coding. I did a custom indicator that does a few more things. So this is actually, you can use custom indicators for your levels. And I built in a filter for months and days of the week. So I can, let's say tomorrow's Wednesday. I want to know how this level, trading this level did on a Wednesday. I've got a button up here, and I'm going to just click that and hit 3. And now now the results, you can see there's a lot fewer trades, 401, and it shows me how trading that previous day's high on a Wednesday, how that worked. And it goes back, 3,000 days, so 1/5 of that, whatever that is, 600 Wednesdays. This is how it works. So I can look at each day of the week. If I set this back to 0, we're looking at all days again.
So out of approximately, so it's 1/5 to 3,000 days. So you had 600 days it could have traded on, but it couldn't trigger except on 400 days, 401 days according to your statistics, and it was 54% winning. 45% got their, winning meaning it got its full target. This is a one-lot trade. 45% had to be stopped out, and the gross revenue from this is $387. Again, not accounting for commissions and fees and things like that, and it's actually also giving you the MFE MAE over the total period, and you can look at that as Chad shows. If you hit the Show Trade Analysis button, you can see what the trades look like, and you can have it compute the MFE MAE for you. I think the scale is just a little bit off because you're on manual.
Sure.
You're on manual, that's why.
Oh, there we go.
So that's what that is. That's what we're looking at here, and you can check pretty much anything you can create within IRT. You can check as long as you can define a system around it. And the example of, hey, how does this perform on Monday versus Friday? It's just incredible that you can limit the results to see on a preliminary basis. Now, do you trade off of this? Probably not. What it does, though, is it tells you if your idea has merit, if it should get more scrutiny, more attention, or if your idea just doesn't play out, on the surface. It's like Chad said, it's a poor man's backtesting system. It's a rough test, okay?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it just allows you to analyze a certain price and see how it reacted to that price if you go back 3,000 days. I also have a button for the month. So if you set that to 0, it considers all months. You can set it to 1 for January only. So it's June, so maybe you want to look at June results only. We can click that and hit enter a 6. And now we're looking at only the trades that occurred in June and the results from June. I mean, you could even filter it further by entering a day of the week, Wednesdays in June. So that's the kind of filtering you can do within the custom indicator. So you can really get creative with that. And so I'm going to go back to 0 there. And what you can also do is there's an indicator called, an RTX indicator called Pivot Strategy Optimizer, and that's in this chart. And if I bring it up, let me bring up the preferences on it.
Chad, just a quick question. The P&L shown there is in ticks, right?
Yes, it's everything there is in ticks. So this expectancy 0.7 means 0.7 ticks was the average
Per trade.
profit per trade. Yeah, and that's 5.6% of the stop loss basically. So all right, the optimizer allows you to optimize any of these variables. We've got about 5 or 6 variables here. We got month, we got day of the week, we have target, stop, the reset distance. So we can go in here, and I've also created another one, which is high plus a certain percentage of the range. So maybe you don't want to fade the high. You want to fade the high plus 25%. I can go in here and I can optimize, I can do 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, and get the results in total revenue, total net revenue, and average profit per trade, and see which of those levels would have worked best. I can see which of those levels would have worked best on a Wednesday, which would have worked best in June, and then you can go do the same analysis on the low, on the low minus a certain percentage of the range. So just a great deal of stuff you can do here. So we'll just optimize on day of the week. So I'm going to optimize C-Pound 6 as a day of the week from 1 to 5. Stepping 1 at a time. So I'm just going to choose optimize upon OK, hit OK, and you'll see over here it's going to show it optimizing, and then it'll present the results, and it'll actually open them in Excel as well. So right here you can see 3, that's Wednesday. Wednesday was the best day to trade this, and it shows you profit trades, 4-to-1 trades, and the profit was 387 ticks overall, an average of 1 tick, positive 1 tick per trade, which is okay, pretty good. So, and then, they were all positive actually on this test, and then the worst was actually Thursday, which made 0.3 ticks per trade.
So Chad, we're running out of time real quick, and I know you have a lot to cover. One question that's being asked that I need to answer, you do not have to have the back testing add-on to IRT. This is an LSNRTX indicator that's built in, right?
Right. Almost every, there's two packages you can buy. Our product is $50 for the base package, and most all of these RTX indicators I'm showing you today are part of that base package, including this one. But there's a volume analysis package and a profile package. They're $20 each, and with those two you have everything. And a few of these are, I'll try to mention the ones that are in those packages, but probably there's probably 35 RTX indicators, and I think at least 28 of them don't require a package, and there may be 7 that do. So this one does not. Okay, so let me get moving here. That's the pivot strategy analysis and pivot strategy optimizer. So I created a little statistical chart. Let me bring it up. I called it filtered daily statistics. Now this is just a very basic statistics on average volume. So right here is showing the average volume and the average range going back about 3,000 days. So the average range is of the day session is about 17.5, and the average volume is about 1.27 for the day session. Now if I've got buttons up here to limit to the month, so I can limit it to June. Let me just hit that button and hit 6. Now you can see the average range and the average volume per day for June only. If I hit this and hit enter 1, that's January only. So you can look at these, you can do these kind of statistics, and I'm going to share all these charts with Morad, and he's going to share these chart definitions with the video, so you'll be able to import these and dig in. Again, I don't want to get too into the syntax. If you have any questions, you can import this, look at how I've done it. If you have any questions, just email support, and I'll let you know. I might do some videos to go into more detail on some of these charts that I'm presenting. But this just allows you to, I can click this button and enter 3, and I know now that this considers all the Wednesdays in January, And so the average volume on Wednesdays in January is 1.64 million, and the average range is 25.73, which is kind of high. So so anyway, this allows you there. I mean, I'll just take a quick look at this just to show you what I'm doing. I'm basically summing up the volume and filtering it with a signal and summing it up for the whole chart and dividing it by this syntax, which gives me the sum of all the signals that were true. So it just does an average of everything I've filtered. And I think I am going to do a video on that specifically. That's a pretty neat trick you can use to do a lot of different statistics on filtered. And I've used a position indicator for filtering. It'll filter a lot of different things. Day of the week, days until expiration, days into expiration, day of the month, month of the year, quarter, so forth. All that can be filtered. So
can you set month to 0 and day of week to 1 for Monday, so we can see if we still have 17.5 points? So Monday drops on average from 17.5 points for all days, 3,000 days historically, to 15.5, and the volume drops a little bit as well from, 1.27 to 1.09 or something like that.
Right.
But I think for the stat heads, I think the third pane is the one you want to get to, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's look at that. And now, again, this is this chart's going back 1,000 days. You could change it to 3,000. You can change it to 100 days if you just want to look at the most recent history. But let's look at this. It's called the scatter plot. This is an indicator I have not yet released. I actually realized as I was preparing for this, I have not yet released this. It's pretty unique, as kind of all these RTX indicators are. But it instead of plotting time along the horizontal axis, it plots an indicator. So it essentially plots two indicators against each other. In this case, on the horizontal axis, you have volume, daily volume, and right now we got it filtered for Monday, all the volumes on Monday, and on the vertical axis, it is plotting the range. So it's plotting the volume against the range, and then it has a best fit curve going through that, along with a lot of the correlation coefficient, standard deviation, skewness, and kurtosis in the upper left. So you can, as you move it has its own little crosshair with it, so you can see as you move. Like we're looking at a range of 34 and a volume of 186 here. So so pretty interesting. You can combine any two custom indicators, which really gives you access to anything. You could be plotting the change in the NQ versus the change of the ES. So you could plot those on two different scales, see how they relate. So lots you can do with it. Yeah.
Could you look at like today is day number 2 of the week, right? So if you switch day of week to 2 and you're comparing range to volume, look at where we are. The red dot is where we are today. And what this is saying is basically on the right axis we have range. On the x-axis, the horizontal axis, we have volume. Here's where today sits on all Tuesdays going back. What is it? 1,000. They have it set to 1,000 days. So out of 1,000 days, pick every Monday, right? So we're using 200. We're looking at 200 data points approximately, right?
Right.
So 1/5 of those, 1 day out of 5 in a week, and it's showing us where we stand today. The red dot is telling you where we are today or currently. So if you show this during the session, it'll show you where it is at that time during the session. Look at how terrible the volume. What's that?
It's supposed to. That's not working for some reason. I'll fix that before we release this. But we probably will release this later this week. I need to get this out. But that red dot's at 0 right now. Something's broken with that, so I'll get that fixed. But yeah, it'll be at the lower end of the range. Essentially, once that dot's working, yeah,
you'll see that we're operating outside of the middle of that scatter plot, and we're operating in areas that are outside of what we would consider to be the normal or the kurtosis zone in that range. That's just an interesting thing for those who are stat heads, of which I'm one, to see where we are versus where we have been in the past. It's really important to get that perspective so you can base your plans tomorrow or today on that information. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So I'll get that out in the next few days. All right. Let me take a look at quote page. Switch gears here and look at quote pages and custom columns, because this has kind of come up in a couple of support tickets lately. Today, somebody wanted to export day session and overnight session information. All this is a day session open, high, low, close, and volume. You want to export the day session IB high and low, and then the overnight, the full session, you wanted the open, high, low, close, volume point of control, value high and value low. And you want to export that at the end of every session to a CSV or text file. So there's probably 20 different ways I could approach that in InvestorRT, but I did it this way, and I wanted to talk about custom columns briefly. Any of you that use custom columns, custom columns are a very flexible way to present columns in quote pages where you have access to any combination of indicator, custom indicator, session, and periodicity, and you can pretty much present any column, any type of data you want in a quote page column. So I will look at the preferences real quick, but it's very important to know that we made an addition to the, we enhanced the efficiency of this custom column. It used to be very inefficient, okay, a year ago, until we added this option right here to maintain persistent data. It keeps that data around so that it's not having to load data, calculate, and then free the data. And we ran, a user this week ran into this problem. He was having, his InvestorRT was locking up periodically, and that's because he had a lot of custom columns that were calculating very frequently, and they did not have maintained persistent data. When he turned that on, everything was extremely smooth. So this is important to know that, that you can present just about anything through custom columns, but it's very important to maintain persistent data. Let me go back to the web page and go to the videos page. And if you're interested in using custom columns, or you are using, and you haven't watched the video, it's custom quote page. Just search for custom quote page columns. Right here, this video right here, the second one that comes up, it's really important to watch that. And it'll tell you how to set up your custom columns with maintain persistent data. That's very important for efficiency. So, but there's a lot you can do here. You can color these with rules. You can color a lot of flexibility with the way you format your data and what you're using. This one's just using simply a one period moving average of the open on the day session. So, so I'll share this quote page definition as well. You can import this and look at it. One thing I did realize when creating this video, that we have not implemented the concept of day session and full session in custom columns. So I'm going to add that soon. Instead of just doing a session override, I'm going to have an options for day session, full session, or custom session, and then you can just say day session. Then when I share it with you, you would get the day session instead of relying on a session number. We don't want to do that anymore. We're trying to remove all reliance on session numbers and just allow you to choose day session or full session. Okay. Moving on, let's go to session prices. That kind of flows right into the session prices chart. So the session prices indicator, I've got a lot in here, but it's a single indicator. All these lines in the upper pane are a single indicator getting key prices. There's up to 20 or 22 that you can specify. Bring up the preferences. You have check marks, so you can choose which one you want to show. And there's a lot of different ways to show them. You can do compact lines on the right. You can do developing lines like I've shown. So you can deselect all these and just select a few if you want to.
So the importance of this is that eventually once I can get these on the ES intraday chart, the 15-minute chart, and the trigger chart, we won't need that background chart, the quote board chart, to be open all the time in order to display the prior or the overnight sessions high and low and the overnight sessions point of control. It'll be just an indicator on the chart, right? Right. That's really the intent here, right?
Well, right. I mean, you've got a chart that's set up with a lot of complex, some of them somewhat complex custom indicators that are driving your prices, and they're saving your prices to VPOW variables, and then they're being used by other charts. This does all that work for you. There's a lot of complex work going on under the covers, like to get the overnight volume point of control and so forth. But it does all that work for you. Users don't have to figure out how to code that in RTL. This does all the work for you, and then you can save these like I've done here. I've stored these into VPOW 21 through 40. Okay, so I got a series of 20 prices and storing all those prices. Now what I can do then is go to my destination chart. Now on this chart I've got either reference lines set up to show me VPOW 20 plus 19, or I can hide that and I can use the quote board indicator again, doing VPOW 20, well I should have done 20 here, but VPOW 21 plus 19. But the nice thing here is this sorts all your prices here. It gives you the hot, cold coloring, and then it also shows you lines over here on the right. Then you could just take this quote board and drag it to any chart you wish these lines to be on. But you would still need your session prices in a chart feeding those V-pound variables, which are then used by, so it would be the same concept. I'm just letting you know that instead of having all those custom indicators feeding, each one feeding a V-pound variable, you can have this one. I believe we put all the prices you're interested in the session prices now, so you can have this one RTX indicator feeding all those V-pounds, and also it labels them automatically. It labels the V-pound variables for you based on what you set here. I can change the labels. There's a few different options we've added here for labeling, and you can customize them. If you don't like those labels, you can also enter your custom labels, and then those are shared with. Yeah, go ahead.
What is the point of the heat map at the bottom? What does that do again?
That's just showing you when price got close to those levels. So it heats up on bar. You'll see it get really dark when price got close to that level. So you can kind of see what, it's just a different way to look at it. This is another instance that I've chosen. Proximity boxes is what I call it. Just another instance of the session prices. So you can see, when it gets close or when further away from any of those levels. Okay, so that's the session prices indicator. Moving on to the clock. We won't spend much time on this one, but we do have a clock indicator, and it does just that. It shows you the time. And here are 3 different instances. So, you can look at the time in Tokyo. You can look at the time in Japan. It has its own, you can choose a time zone in the preferences. A lot of different things you can show, like this one's showing the number of the time left in the session, the full session in this case. There's 16 hours, 13 minutes left in the full session. And this shows you the time, the current time. So a lot of options of how you show this. You can do digital, you can do analog. You can make it as big as you want, like I've done. This one's kind of obnoxious, but you can make it as big as you like or as small. You can drag it around, drag and drop, and you can use shift, scroll wheel to make it bigger or smaller. You have, an enormous, probably more options than you need, but you have control over all the colors. The tip of the hand, you have a choice of an arrow or dot. So a lot of flexibility here. Just gives you a clock in your chart. That's it.
Very cool.
So that's the clock indicator. Yeah. And next, let me look at the divergence indicator. So, over the years, I've gotten questions of, how do I identify divergence between price and between cumulative delta, or between the ES and between the NQ, or between 2 indicators. This will do all that in different ways. Now, it's kind of easy sometimes to look at a chart and say there's divergence there. Really hard to quantify that and come up with a numerical value that says there's divergence there. So I've done, I really encourage you, if you're interested in this, to go watch the videos on divergence. It's another RTX indicator. But there's 2 different ways I've shown you in the chart here. One's the retracement method, and I've used a period of 30. Now what that does is I'm doing a divergence between price on the ES and the cumulative delta, which is shown in the second pane. I'm trying to compute a divergence between the 2. Now in this pane I have the retracement method. What that does is on any given bar, it looks back 30 bars and sees where the current price is within the range of the past 30 bars. So maybe it's 80%, it's near the highest at 80%. And then it also does the same on the cumulative delta bars. And then it takes a difference between the 2. So if you get a big positive number, that means price is at its high end over the past 30 bars, and maybe cumulative delta is at the low. So that's one way of attacking it. Down to the low, this is the high-to-high method. And it identifies significant highs using the fractals indicator. I've actually got a button up here to control the fractal period, but it identifies, you can see the dots where the significant highs are, and you only get a divergence value on those bars where there's significant highs, and what it's doing is looking back at the previous highs, and you specify how far back you want to look, but there may be multiple. Yeah, go ahead.
In this instance, right, just to bring this back to trading, what it's done right here with this bar that you have your arrow on, it's looked back at the high 30 bars back to the current high on price, and it's done the same for the second pane or the middle chart you see in the middle there, and it's comparing those, and what it's showing there in the red bar going down is that, hey, price made a higher high, but the delta, the cumulative delta, did not. There's a kind of a negative divergence there. Am I reading that correctly?
Well, it looks, so right here it's going to be looking at this one, and then it's going to compare it to a previous high. Now you specify how far back you want to look. Okay, so maybe I've chosen 60 bars, so I'm not really sure. I think I can actually label this. Hold on, let me see if I put an app. Label the bars back. All right, there we go. So it's looking 33 bars back on that one, which is probably right here. And so it's taking the high here versus the high here and comparing it with the high here versus the high right here on the same bar. So it's kind of it's seeing which one rose or fell the most. So it's kind of saying did this one go up and that one go down, or did this one go up and that one go up less? So with the green bar, just so we understand, the green bar that's shown there at 1140 or thereabouts, what that's showing is after it's done its comparison, it's showing that, is that saying price on a relative basis, price was moved more positively versus cumulative delta? Yeah, if you look at that bar, you can see we're probably comparing 30 bars back to right there. Now, price moved up a little bit, but you can see that the cumulative delta bar was actually lower than that bar. See, so that's why it's the price was more positive relative to the cumulative delta. That's why it's a green positive value. Okay, so so the price rose, and in that case, the cumulative delta was negative. So you get a positive value because I've chosen price as my primary data. Yeah, you can look at the settings here. You've got data 1 and data 2. Now these can be anything. These can be two different. You could choose an alternate symbol. You can pull in data from an alternate symbol. You can do price versus cumulative delta, two indicators against each other. So you really have access to do divergence on just about anything. And there's a lot of options in here. Again, I encourage you to go watch the divergence video on the website, and it'll tell you a lot more about those options in there. But
very cool.
So there's other options. There's other methods. We have a correlation coefficient method as well. So you can find out about those on the website. It's, again, this was always something I was kind of scared to tackle because it's just difficult to quantify divergence numerically. But anyway, we've taken a stab at it, and there's some options here, and we welcome any ideas you have on this front. So
cool.
Let me move on to the quickly show you the paint indicator and the paint candles. There's one indicator called the paint indicator and one indicator called the paint candles, and they do just that. They'll wrap the candle in a painted, in a wrapper as wide as you want and as far away from the candle as you want, and it can be based on signals. You can paint it based on signals. You have up to 4 signals you can specify and a color related to that signal. In this case, I did something kind of simple. Down at the bottom, we've got the CCI indicator painted with the CCI indicator. It's painting it blue when it approaches 100, and it's painting it pink when it approaches negative 100. I'll show you the settings there. You simply specify your custom indicator up here, and then you choose how you want to paint it. You can paint it based on a signal, on it being greater than a certain value, on a value being greater than the indicator. So a lot of flexibility. I think actually there's 7 different paint conditions you can have. This will be great for better volume indicator that a lot of you like to use. You can do better volume with this. And down here, I've chosen to do a gradient painting based on a custom indicator, and that custom indicator is the same one, the CCI. So when it gets to negative 100, we use this color. When it gets to positive 100, we get that color, 100 or greater. And otherwise, it kind of blends towards white, the background color, when it gets to 0. So that's how that works. And I've done the same with all 3 of these. This is the paint candles indicator, wrapping the candles. It works very similar to the paint indicator, which takes an indicator and lets you paint it. And, I can choose to a lot of different formats of how I paint this. I've chosen dots, but I can do a rounded histogram. You can see how that works. Okay, so that's kind of neat. So a lot of flexibility with how you present this.
Just to make sure this is relevant to the traders watching, what this is doing basically is it's instead of looking at the indicator and seeing, oh my God, the CCI is approaching 100 or 200, the bar right before your, the bar that you're looking at simply starts getting colored as it approaches those levels. So if you set on the high side this blue and the CCI is hovering around 0, then it's going to go to a neutral color versus becoming, very deep blue. If it's very deep blue, then it's approaching the upper boundary, which you have set to plus 200, right? So this goes the same for RSIs or anything like that. Zigzags, even the zigzag indicator, we have that zigzag in one of the panes on my trigger chart, and we have it set so that if it exceeds, I believe it's 4.75 on any given rotation, then it's starting to push out into areas where it's not likely to continue, so we can color that, for example, red. And so we can see the bars, the price bars, changing colors as the zigzag starts to push out of what we would consider to be unusual, above what we would consider to be unusual. And that's the usefulness of this, is to give you just an on-screen, on-price indication of what something else is doing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you got two things working there. You got a custom indicator showing you the value, but you also could have a number of different signals or other custom indicators painting that dot or that histogram. So a lot you can do with this. So that's the paint candles indicator and the paint indicator. So one of them paints the candle, one paints the indicator.
Sorry, Chad, I know I keep interrupting you. I apologize. We're approaching 1 hour.
Okay.
You might want to wrap up so we can take a couple questions before we cut it off. I was looking to keep this to an hour. What else do you have?
Okay, let me one more chart, then I'm done. So let me just bring that up because that was kind of an important one. If I can find it. All right, here we go. So this is a chart I'm just calling volume at price. Let me maximize that. Okay, so this is the this basically is showing you. We're zooming in here. We're looking at the volume, the each price within each bar, and we're looking at how much volume's in there. It's doing a histogram. So I've got 5 different indicators at play here, and I just want to go through really quickly through each one. The volume candles indicator is showing us the volume at each price, and it's got a histogram that's split up with the buying and selling volume. I've got the price volume pattern RTX indicator. That's the green and red highlights showing imbalance, areas of imbalance where the buying volume was 300% of the selling volume below that, or vice versa. So you got blue for buying imbalance and red for selling imbalance, and you can control that with a C-pound variable button up here. And we've also got the trade dots, this indicator here that shows you a 2 and a 1. That's finding large trades. It's it's using this button here, so it's trades that are greater than or equal to 200 in size. So it actually looks at all the ticks within the price within the bar, and it finds the big ones and tells you how many there are. I can change this to 200 and we'll get more dots. Okay, so those are 3 RTX indicators. I've also have here, over here on the right, this is the price statistics indicator, which we introduced about a year and a half ago. And it shows you cumulative information over a period of time. As I showed you before, it can feed off the boundaries indicator if you want to really control the period of time that it's representing. But you have a lot of flexibility with what columns you show here, a lot of different data you can show. But it's cumulative data over a period. It can be the current day, it can be the previous day, it can be the last 5 days. And I've added a lot of new options for color, how you color this. And you can actually hide. We have a new option that's we've just released. 12.7.5 should be being released while I'm talking, and you can actually filter out prices. So if the absolute value of delta is less than a certain value, which I'm controlling here, let's make that 1,000. It'll just hide those prices from the price statistics indicator. And I also thought I had a bar statistics indicator, but I think I just deleted it for some reason. But anyway, we also have the bar statistics indicator, which shows you the cumulative information textually in the same way price statistics does, but it shows you that information for each bar in a separate pane below. And also one more thing I want to show you on the volume candles indicator, great option, a lot of flexibility here, but this option allows you to detach. We'll do 3 bars in this case. You could do last 5, last 3, last 2. And what that does, it gets them off the bar. So now I can really zoom, I can zoom out on these bars now, and just put those last three over on the right. You can order them, the latest first, the latest last. You can also resize them with the keyboard, with the mouse wheel. You select it and use the mouse wheel. I can bring to front and put it on the left side of my price statistics, and it'll stack horizontally next to a profile indicator, a cumulative profile, or a price statistics indicator. But that's a really nice way to be able to still zoom out on your bars, but to see that detailed information for the last bar, the last 3 bars, the last 5 bars, however many you want to. So, so those are that's the price volume pattern, trade dots, volume candles, bar statistics, and price statistics. All of those are really focused on volume at price information, showing them to you in different ways.
Wow.
So that's it.
Very cool.
I'm done.
Okay, let's see what questions we've got. Does anybody here have questions? I mean, what we don't want to do with the questions is get into the nuts and bolts of, I'm going to tell you that each one of these RTX indicators probably can take up an hour and a half of discussion, and how we can exploit it to extract information for our trading for an edge. The goal of this webinar is, of course, is to get an overview of what's there, what's the latest and greatest there, and then it's up to you to dig in, like Chad said, to go to their website, linsoft.com/RTX, and choose the RTX indicator that piqued your interest, and look at what it can and cannot do. And if it's not, if there's something you're looking for or expect it to be able to do, or maybe a feature that it's missing, just drop a line to support@linsoft.com, and Chad will probably get it and take a look and see if he can make it happen, or create a video to address the question if he thinks that's something that many people will ask. Okay, so let's grab some questions. Yoda, do you have any that are outstanding that need to be addressed?
We a number of them are quite specific and get into the details, which I don't think we want to do today on how to do certain things. So what I would suggest is that people just ask their questions right now relating to these topics that you just mentioned.
Yeah, if you have specific questions, just email those to support@linsoft.com, and I'll get to them tomorrow. But you know,
someone was asking, would something like an undo button ever be possible in an investor RT to just undo some of the last moves?
Well, okay, so probably the best option for that now is there's a revert option. If you right-click in the chart, you can revert to the last saved chart. So you open the chart, you accidentally delete a custom indicator, you can right-click and hit where is it? Revert right there, and it'll go back to the chart. Will go back to how it was when you opened it. So that's the closest we have right now. I agree that would be great, but there's so many different actions you can take. It's kind of hard. It's just a difficult piece for us to program, because there's so many different actions you can take on a chart that we'd kind of have to figure out a way to record. Yeah, I mean, it's possible, and I'll do some more thinking on that. But right now, that revert option is probably your best way to get back to something you had before.
And someone was asking, do you have example of RTX indicator code if they wanted to learn how to program an RTX? Yeah, we have. Let me go back to the web page. There is a video on the RTX. There's not going to be an example of everything. Every possible thing you can do. We've added so many things so quickly that there's not going to be an example of everything. But again, ask me and I'll send you a sample to show you how to do something. But there is a let me see where the video is. All right here. Up on the RTX page right here. This RTX development video series. This is like maybe an 8 video series. Okay, it takes you through right from the start. First of all, it shows you what you can do, which is probably dated now because there's so much more you can do. It tells you how to set up your project in Visual Studio. It tells you how to duplicate your projects, and it goes through a lot of the functions. It does go through most of the basic functionality, how to write your draw function, your calculate function, and how to set up your preferences, how to position your preferences, those kind of things. So, so a lot of that's in here, and then when you get through that, if you have problems along the way, email us. If you need a sample, let me know, because I'll be glad to give that to you. I would love to have more RTX developers, and we have a few already, but I'd love to have thousands. That'd be great.
Okay. Next question. I see total volume only. Are you soon going to be able to show bid and ask volume separately?
That is, we're working through some contractual things on that front that I can't really speak to. So I hope we'll have good news on that front soon. But as of right now, we're doing what we can, and hope to have some new information on that soon. But that's about all I can say about that at this point.
Okay, and this is to FT, mostly interested in what you use and learn about the who and what of Investors RT.
Well, not sure what that means.
I think they're wanting to know how you use Investor RT, and they want to learn from you. At least that's how I read it.
Okay, if that's the question, Investor RT, why Investor RT versus, Ninja, which I don't feel is a very strong charting package, or TradeStation or whatever. I used to use CQG Integrated Client, which is like a $900 a month package. The thing with IRT that has me using it versus other things is, one, it's well priced for the power that you get. It's not something you can just, it's not like an iPad where, your 5-year-old can pick it up and just start clicking on things and watching videos. It takes a little bit of time to figure it out, so you have to come into it knowing that there's a little bit of time that is needed to be put in to actually be able to exploit the power that the IRT provides. But the reason I use IRT is because it's raw in the way it runs. It takes whatever data I give it. I use IQ feed as my data feed. It takes that, and it's basically displaying the information the way I need it displayed for my ability to be able to trade. So to me, if I don't have a charting package or data that I'm not 100,000% confident in, the analogy I always give is it's like trying to play golf, compete in the Masters with bent golf clubs. You might be able to save some money to go out and get some Dunlop clubs from your local wholesale store. But if you're going to compete with the rest of the world, you need to have something that is got the power. And for me, IRT is a set of clubs that is you get a lot for your money, and that's really why I use it. Also, Chad has been consistently updating and keeping up, and you'll notice that IRT tends to come out with things, and then all of a sudden, all these other this is not a shot at everyone else, but you'll notice that other trading packages start having that same thing. So it's on the forefront always, because they're, the guys at IRT are directly connected to traders. Many different traders have been around for a long time, almost 30 years, right? So it's just, that's why I use it. Now, what do I do with it to trade? That's too complex a question.
Yeah.
It's too
all I would
complex
add,
to answer.
Sorry, all I would add to that is, if you're a member or a trader with a stage 5, FT shares all of his charts for IRT, so you'd be able to download the definitions and install them and have the exact same charts that you have. So, okay, so let's move on. Somebody was asking, Chad, is it possible to get a micro composite volume profile on part of the data dynamically? I'm not quite
just like on a subset of the day?
Yeah, let's say if you want it to be updating as the data, as the day progresses. Can you?
So you want to? Yeah. Well, what I just showed you with this indicator, you can specify where it starts, and it's going to keep building from there. With even with this new boundaries indicator, but there is also a to present option in the profile indicator where you can just drag the starting point and it keeps building that, and it keeps building with the new data that's coming in the chart. Is that what they're asking?
Not quite sure. That's just what it read. So if
I
not,
think what they're asking, well, I think what they're asking here is more of a dynamic profiles based on, you know, for that to happen, you need to have the user, that trader needs to set parameters. So the best answer to this that I see is to use the zones RTX indicator. Do you have that chart still? And I think one thing you didn't show, Chad, is that you can show the zones, but then also impose a profile on that zone. So go ahead and do that. See, you can put a zone, you can create a zone, and then create a dynamic profile within that. And so you can expand and contract your zone. You can restrict it by volume. I think this is what they're looking for. They're looking for the ability to create a profile dynamically as opposed to, you know, having to shift it and draw it, which is what the boundary indicator is doing.
Right.
This is more of what they're looking for.
Okay. Well, yeah. This automates those blocks, those zones, and then you can. Let me show you where that option is. There's now an option right here, so you can choose zones or boundaries or shapes. If you draw your own manual shapes, you can choose that, and it'll take all the shapes in your chart and put profiles in them. So you have those three. Those are three new options. This is also a great new option I didn't mention, split session, which automatically splits your overnight and day session on your repeating profiles. So, but there's also this to present option, and then that's like a manual profile that only has a draggable start point, but it's always going to present. So I don't think that's what they were asking, but that's also an option. So hopefully I answered the question somewhere in there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's I think what the issue is. Can we limit to 2 more questions, please?
Okay, 2 more questions. I've got so many. I apologize for everybody that does not get the question answered. What I would suggest, if you have it, send a question to Chad, and I'm sure he would be happy to answer them tomorrow or when he gets time. Chad, should they send it to support@linsoft.com?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I think on that, because there's so many really, just I want clarification. Some people are asking on pricing and what's included. Everything that you went through, Chad, is included in the basic package, which is $50. And then if you're wanting to follow use some of the charts that FT uses, there's 2 add-ons, each costing $20 each a month.
Yes, so if you go to linsoft.com/pricing, you can kind of get a better picture. It shows you what's part of the core platform here, and then it shows you what which indicators here you need the profile package for and which you need the volume analysis package for. And there's also a market depth $10 a month package for the Trail of Intentions, which does the historical book or market depth. And trading system is not needed for the pivot strategy analysis indicator I showed you, but that $10 a month does activate the more the full backtesting and optimization package, as well as realization as well.
Okay,
so,
and you also mentioned
though,
flex levels, and I see right here that the flex levels are also included in the basic package.
Yes, they are.
Yes. So for the charts that I use, all you need is the basic, and you'll need the volume analysis package, and then of course you'll need, if you need back historical data, you need to get DTNMA. That is basically the absolute minimum that you need to be able to pull in the information I'm using, which is a volume breakdown indicator and things like that. So that's, you know, I think it's $70 for the absolute basic setup. And for those of you who are considering trying this, there's a specific link that you need to go to, and it'll be, you know, we'll provide that in the recording page. Make sure to click from there, and using that link references me as the lead source, which also helps us figure out and try to help you on basic things, like especially if you're a Stage 5 member. We handle the first level of support and orientation, and then anything above that we push over to Chad to support at Linsoft to address. But we act as a filter for them, and this is just a long-term relationship and arrangement that we've had. So make sure you use our link when you're going in. Yeah.
I've included the link also now in the chat for everybody.
Oh, okay, very cool. Very cool. Yes, I see it now. Yeah, so we'll leave you with that. I think we'll cut it off here. We're 15 minutes over. We definitely appreciate all of you hanging out and seeing what the latest and greatest is. We'll do these periodically. And a special thank you to Chad for taking the time and preparing and putting this together, and also to Yoda for moderating and making sure your questions get answered, and Danny for sending out the invites and handling the recording afterwards. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Enjoy yourself. Thanks all for coming in. Take care.
Thanks, guys.